Everyone keeps talking about a WNBA free agency frenzy, expansion chaos, protected lists, front offices playing chess while fans play Panic Simulator. But let's be honest, there's one name cutting through all the noise, and it's not subtle. It's Sophie Cunningham. Because while the league debates hypotheticals, will the Fever protect her? Could an expansion team steal her? Would Indiana gamble and let her walk? Sophie just walked straight into the conversation and flipped the table. This isn't just about contracts. This is about identity, culture, and a player who found exactly where she belongs.
I've talked about how there's going to be a free agent frenzy as soon as the floodgates are opened, but perhaps the most talked about WNBA free agent is Sophie Cunningham. I mean, for a few reasons, right? One, you have the expansion draft. So people are wondering what players are protected. And a lot of hypotheticals can go out there about why the Fever won't protect Sophie Cunningham, considering Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, KK Timpson on the rookie deal and under contract.
Next to Caitlin Clark, inside the Fever locker room, and at the center of one of the most watched teams in women's basketball. For weeks, fans speculated, analysts circled scenarios. Social media tried to read between every line of every podcast appearance. Was Sophie flirting with the idea of leaving, keeping her options open, playing the game? Then she stopped playing it, and what she said, publicly, clearly, unapologetically, changed the entire conversation.
Maxed out under the old framework by a new team, one of the expansion teams, and her being a free agent where she could choose where she goes and just winds back up with the Fever. Now, you could argue protect her anyway, just in case, to make sure that doesn't happen, but that's part of it. And then, of course, the other part of it is how big a star she's become this year and that she plays for the Fever, and who she plays next to. But Sophie, despite sort of coyly hinting at the idea of flirting with other teams or other possible destinations.
Because when a player makes her intentions this obvious, it forces the league to react. And today on Her Hoops, we're breaking down exactly why Sophie Cunningham's message matters, why Indiana should be paying very close attention, and why this free agency storyline might already be over before it even begins. To understand why this matters, you have to understand the timing and the pressure cooker the WNBA is walking into. Expansion teams are coming, roster protection rules are looming, and front offices are about to make decisions that will haunt them for years.
Decided not to do that at all anymore and make her intentions very clear about where she plans to play and that she plans to stay. So it is no secret what Sophie Cunningham and where she is leaning. In fact, the Sophie Cunningham Classic, her tournament to help boost girls basketball. She was interviewed by ABC 17 in Missouri, and here's the clip that was...
Indiana's situation? Complicated. You've got Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell, foundational pieces. You've got young talent on rookie deals. You've got chemistry that finally clicked. And then you've got Sophie Cunningham, the veteran edge, the emotional spark, the tone setter who changed how this team carried itself night after night. But here's where the drama comes in. If protection slots are limited, someone becomes vulnerable.
More my style of play in the girls in the locker room. Any level, it's hard to find a group that really loves each other, and especially at the pros, we really did. And so it just made a really fun culture up in Indiana. You know, what was so special about that group of girls, Caitlin and Lexi and you? What was so special? You know what? I don't know. I just think that we all had a vision of what this team could be. We kept the main thing, and that's winning basketball games. And I got to shout out Kelsey Mitchell too. She really held it down for us when all of us got injured and whatnot. She was just one of the best teammates I've ever had.
And some people started whispering Sophie's name. Not because she isn't valuable, but because she might be too confident. Confident enough that Indiana could gamble. Confident enough that expansion teams might hesitate to max her. Confident enough that she'd find her way back anyway. That's the chess match people thought was happening. Add in Sophie's playful, sometimes cryptic comments on podcasts and exit interviews, and suddenly fans started wondering if she was open to a new chapter.
It was cool that when we all kind of started going down, our team just got closer and closer. But hopefully this next year, we don't know if the CBA, but hopefully we can keep our core together and go get a championship together.
So there you go. Intention is very clear. By the way, Sophie being a good teammate, they're going out of her way to mention Kelsey Mitchell because Kelsey Mitchell's such an integral part of the team. And that's a focus from the Fever to make sure I think she gets the proper attention and credit. But Sophie doing good work there. But
here's the thing. Stars don't always play coy when they've already made up their mind. And that brings us to the moment that quietly shut down all the speculation. The speculation didn't end with rumors. It ended with words, Sophie Cunningham's own. At her basketball tournament back in Missouri, speaking to local media, Sophie wasn't dodging questions. She wasn't hedging. She wasn't leaving breadcrumbs for free agency drama Twitter. She was relaxed, comfortable, grounded. And that's when she said it. Indiana felt like home. Back in the Midwest, back around her people, back to a style of play that actually fits who she is. That matters. She talked about the Fever not like a stop on a career tour, but like a place that gave her life again. A locker room that genuinely loved each other. A culture that didn't feel forced. A team that didn't fracture when injuries hit. It tightened. That's not free agent language, that's commitment language. She even went out of her way to shout out Kelsey Mitchell, unprompted, calling her one of the best teammates she's ever had. That's leadership. That's buy-in. That's someone thinking about keeping a core together, not shopping around. And then came the line that sealed it. She didn't say if, she said when. When this group stays together and goes for a championship. That's not flirting with the league, that's planting a flag. Here's where things get uncomfortable, especially for anyone still pretending this is up in the air. Because the league keeps framing Sophie Cunningham like a maybe, a what if, a movable piece in an expansion puzzle. But Sophie isn't talking like someone waiting to see her market value. She's talking like someone who already knows her worth and where it's maximized. Think about the contradiction. On one hand, analysts say Indiana could risk leaving her unprotected. On the other, Sophie is publicly praising the culture, the locker room, the stars, the style of play, and the city itself. Players don't do that by accident. And let's be real, Sophie Cunningham didn't just blend into the Fever. She became part of their identity, the edge, the swagger, the person willing to say what others won't, guard anyone, and absorb pressure so the stars can breathe. You don't replace that with a draft pick. You don't gamble that away in an expansion draft. And you definitely don't assume she'll come back later if another team makes her feel wanted first. That's the tension Indiana now has to sit with, because Sophie just took control of the narrative, publicly, and forced the Fever's hand. And when a player this visible makes her intentions this clear, front offices either listen or regret it. What makes this even more significant is that Sophie's impact on Indiana isn't just emotional, it's structural. On the floor, she fits. She defends multiple positions. She spaces the floor. She brings playoff-level physicality to a team that used to get pushed around. But off the floor? That's where the real value shows up. Watch how she interacts with Caitlin Clark. The jokes, the social media banter, the comfort level. That doesn't happen overnight. That's chemistry built on trust, the kind that lets a rookie phenom breathe because someone else is willing to take heat. Same with Lexi Hull. Same with Kelsey Mitchell. Sophie wasn't just part of the rotation, she was part of the glue. And then there's the injury context. She openly talked about rehab, about not being 100%, about still committing to the group even when she physically couldn't give everything on the court. That matters to front offices. That matters to teammates. That matters when evaluating whether someone is just passing through or putting down roots. Sophie Cunningham didn't describe Indiana like a business decision. She described it like a place that matched her rhythm, her speed, her personality. And when players talk like that, especially veterans, they're telling you something important. They're done searching. This is bigger than Sophie Cunningham. It's bigger than the Fever. It's about what the WNBA is becoming right now. For years, players chased stability, minutes, survival. Now, they're chasing fit, culture, visibility. Indiana suddenly offers all three. The Caitlin Clark effect changed the math. National attention, sold-out arenas, constant cameras. And players like Sophie understand what that means, not just for legacy, but for longevity in the league. This is what modern WNBA free agency looks like. Not quiet exits, not secret negotiations, but public alignment. Sophie didn't wait for rumors to define her. She defined herself. And in doing so, she sent a message to every expansion team and every front office watching. Not every player is available just because a spreadsheet says so. And for the Fever, this is a test. Do you value chemistry as much as talent? Do you protect culture the same way you protect contracts? Because teams don't just win with stars. They win with players who choose to be there and make others better by staying. Sophie Cunningham choosing Indiana isn't just loyalty, it's strategy. And the league is watching. So let's stop pretending this is unclear. Sophie Cunningham didn't hedge. She didn't dance around it. She didn't let insiders speak for her. She spoke for herself. She told you where she feels alive. She told you where her game fits. She told you which locker room actually means something to her. And in a league entering one of the most chaotic free agency periods in its history, that kind of clarity is rare and powerful. Indiana doesn't have to guess anymore. The fans don't have to read tea leaves. The expansion teams don't have to wonder. The message is out there. Now the question flips back to the Fever. Do you protect the player who helped change your culture? Do you lock in the chemistry that finally worked? Or do you gamble that intentions don't matter when contracts do? Because here's the truth. Stars bring attention, but players like Sophie Cunningham turn attention into winning basketball. And if Indiana is serious about building something real around Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell, then keeping Sophie isn't optional. It's foundational. That's the conversation we'll keep having right here on Her Hoops, where WNBA storylines don't get softened, they get said out loud. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Should Indiana protect Sophie Cunningham, no matter what?